How do you know when you've truly made it? Be really rich? Have lots of fans? Or maybe even receive an award to recognise your accomplishments? Those are all great things, but to me, true success comes in the form of The Simpsons. What is up, guys? This is We Go Again Productions. My name is Red Panda, also known as Corky Izzard, and today we're going to be talking about crossovers. Back in the 90s, when both The Simpsons and wrestling were at its peak. But that's not me being a Gen Z either, by the way, as both forms of entertainment were literally at their highest popularity and ratings. These two shows took the world by storm and were constantly making headlines, one way or another. And both also had their golden age around the same time. With The Simpsons, it was roughly from seasons 3 to 11, and with the WWE, it was the PG era. No, it was the Attitude Era. Of course it was. Don't be stupid.
It was common for both of these programs to include celebrity guests. For The Simpsons, celebrities would play as themselves and poke fun at their public personas, but for the most part, they used celebrities as the voices for one-off characters with original quirks, rather than now where they base an entire episode on the cameo. And then there's wrestling, who use their celebrities a bit differently. On the 20th of April 1997, these two worlds merged as Bret Hart's wrestling persona, the Hitman, would make a cameo appearance on Season 8, Episode 21 of The Simpsons, titled The Old Man and the Lisa, which just so happens to be the same day Bret went one-on-one with Stone Cold Steve Austin at WWF In Your House 14, Revenge of the Taker. In the episode, Mr. Burns realizes he is nearly broke through a history of terrible decisions and bad advisors who only tell him what he wants to hear.
I see it all now. You're just a bunch of yes men. I was making the wrong moves and you were too gutless to tell me. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That answer.
Unfortunately, Mr. Burns only realizes this once his poor investments have cost him his entire fortune, and the bank has already foreclosed on the plant and Mr. Burns' mansion, selling it to pro wrestler, the Hitman. But the strangest thing about this cameo, apart from Bret smiling obviously, is the fact that the wrestler's voice doesn't quite match the Hitman's.
Ooh, this place has got old man stink.
For years, fans would speculate if this was actually Bret Hart or not, as it looked like him, but it obviously didn't sound like him.
Why would I want a picture of a pitiful pencil-neck geek? And I am the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
With rumours saying that Bret was not able to visit Fox Studios for dubbing, which is why the studio used someone else's voice for the wrestler. But that was all cleared up when he did an interview with Fightful. When asked why his voice sounded so different, Bret Hart had the following to say: "I think the funny story about the Simpsons cartoon is they initially were not going to draw me in it as me, but I had just lost the title to Shawn Michaels at the Iron Man match in Anaheim. This is maybe a week or two later. They flew me in. I was just going to be the Mad Viking or the Mad Russian or something like that. I was going to be some other wrestling persona that was made up, a fictional one. I tried really hard to try and get them to draw me in as myself. They finally said, it's just the part for Mad Viking. Take it or leave it. And I said, okay, I'll still take it. It'll be fun to go to LA and do the voice for the Mad Viking. But anyway, I did the whole thing in about 5 minutes. I drove there in a big limo, went into the studio, and I did my lines in less than 5 minutes. Did it every way which you can think of. More mad? Okay. Not quite so mad.
Is that alright?
Wait, so you're telling me that Bret Hart showed more emotional rage in a single Simpsons take than he did his whole wrestling career? He truly is the excellence of execution, isn't he?
You don't respect me.
My limo driver had driven off, had gone to get gas, so I got stuck sitting there for about half an hour because I got done so quick. All these workers that were working at Fox Studios came out of the woodwork. I'm talking over 100 people came out, and they had programs and pictures and figures. So I just signed. I had nowhere to go anyway, so I just signed all their stuff. I remember when I was sitting there after I'd signed for about 30 or 40 minutes. I remember the guy who was the director of my episode came up to me and he goes, "I had no idea you were this big of a star. If it's okay with you, we're gonna draw you in as yourself now, cause we had no idea."
So you're telling me that they brought in a world famous wrestler who literally just headlined WrestleMania, and they had no idea he was this big of a star? How? Like, the limo outside should have been a clue at least.
He continued, "So I always thought, just by being a good sport and being nice, taking my time and being friendly with people and signing autographs, they drew me in as myself. Never hurts to be a nice guy. I thought it was always an interesting story, that it paid off, because I think it was a much bigger deal being drawn in as Bret the Hitman Hart and having caused Mr. Burns to go bankrupt and taking his house and all of that."
Which is a nice turn of events, as being drawn as yourself is much better than as some randomer, especially when you're already an established character.
I did all the lines and everything as the Mad Viking. That's why people sometimes hear it. "That's not Bret. It doesn't sound like him." Yeah, I was supposed to be doing the Mad Viking. So I wasn't supposed to be Bret Hart. So I was trying to have a different voice a little bit. But it's me. Again, they didn't change anything except for the artwork. I think Hitman was better than the Mad Viking anyway.
I think so too, Bret. But Meltzer, on the other hand, he wasn't so impressed, as he only gave the episode 3 stars. Maybe if it was an anime rather than a cartoon, he would have gave it 5 stars. But for anyone wondering if Mr. Burns ever did get his mansion back, well, Meltzer also cleared that one up.
Person here says, back in the 90s, Bret Hart bought a mansion in America from Monty Burns. Did he ever sell it back to him?
I thought his mansion was in Calgary. I don't remember him ever living in the United States, until I know he's got the place in Hawaii now, but that's after he retired.
All in all though, Bret explains that it's so cool to be part of a show that makes people laugh really, really hard. But as much as I love Bret's side of things, we all know there's 2 sides to every story. And I'm not saying what he's stated isn't true, but I have a bit of doubt as to how the story actually went. As the producers on The Simpsons have mentioned in commentaries, the Hart continuously pestered them about wanting to play himself.
Is that Bret Hitman Hart?
Yes, that's Bret Hitman Hart, who Bill directed and said, like most professional wrestlers, he was a real gentleman. He was very nice.
Did he wear a pink spandex unitard like that?
Wrestlers are always very specific. You better put my right outfit on.
Yeah.
Put on my pink tank.
I always thought that was Hank doing that voice, but that's why I was surprised.
See, even some of the Simpsons cast didn't know Bret voiced Bret. My God.
Though I do think it's probably a mixture of both, with the producers being impressed with how popular he was, but at the same time, I can also imagine that he kept asking them until they agreed to have him drawn in as himself. But even that wasn't enough.
One of the fans pointed out that we forgot to put the 4 stars on his trunks.
Oh, get out.
For his 4 kids, I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
Though, at the end of the day, it was a good move from Bret to consistently push for his character, as I do agree with him, the Hitman was better than the Mad Viking.
Especially because his appearance was so successful, it spun off several pieces of merchandise.
As you may know, over the years, Simpsons has had a ton of celebrity guests, and while there has been no shortage of toys for the show, it mostly focused on the First family and its recurring characters. But in 2014, The Simpsons would collaborate with NECA for the 25th anniversary, releasing 25 figures across several waves of celebrity guests as they were portrayed in the show, with Bret making an appearance in the third wave of figures, with the back of the box giving a general brief synopsis of his cameo, such as the episode number and its air date. But the most interesting thing to me is that they officially stated Bret Hart's name rather than referring to him as the Hitman. And I also found something else which is pretty cool in my opinion while researching this, and it's a retro-styled Hasbro figure box. Though I couldn't find much more information on it, so I have no idea if it's authentic or not, but I just wanted to share it with you guys anyway. But if you do know anything about this figure, then please write down in the comments below, because I'd really like to know. We need to get Major Wrestling Figure Podcast on the case. They'd know. The WWF also promoted the crossover, as it made the cover of their monthly magazine that was released a month later in May 1997, titled The Bart Foundation, where Bret teams with Springfield's favourite son, having several pages talking about how him and his family aren't so different from The Simpsons. Everybody in the family is a huge Simpsons fan. There are many similarities between our family and theirs. I know that I personally have a lot in common with Homer. I frequently drift off into thoughts, much the way he does. The ironic thing is, when he escapes into a daydream, he's usually wearing the same exact clothes that I used to wear. Well, that explains a lot.
Hey! Hey!
The last little bit of merch I could find on this was a special signing card at Geek Planet back in 2013.
You've got to give it to the guy though, for remaining humble throughout this whole ordeal.
Hey, Brock Lesnar, you got one of these?
I spoke too soon, didn't I?
What about you, Ric Flair? Oh yeah, I forgot. You weren't even on Simpsons.
Though, Ric Flair would eventually make his way into the animated world when he made a guest appearance on one of the world's most famous cartoons, Family Guy. Connor, it was the Cleveland show. Oh. Well, good for you, Rick. Good for you.
Now put on your wigs and have fun in your canoe!
Both legends have now been immortalized into the cartoon world. Just some better than others, I suppose.
No.
As we all know, you have to be a truly special someone to make it into The Simpsons. A person who is a true pioneer of our time, a pop culture phenomenon, a superstar that has done it all. Someone like Brutus the Barber Beefcake, who portrayed the beefy bishop on The Simpsons Tapped Out Game on the event, the golden age of wrestling. But the last and arguably the most fascinating piece of information that I found while researching this, if you're a wrestling fan that is that after Bret was finished with the show and after signing hundreds of fans' autographs, obviously, he would then go on to meet Eric Bischoff for the first time as they sat down and had lunch together.
September of '96. This is when Bret first says he made his way out to LA and he was out there to do a guest spot on The Simpsons, and Barry Bloom had lined it up for you guys to have a meeting in LA. Is that really the first time that Bret may be coming in even comes up?
It's not even fair to characterize it as Bret may be coming in. It was really, more than anything, it was social.
Who knew so much could happen from a 1-minute cameo appearance? Just as a question though, what is your favourite Simpsons cameo? Me personally, I've got to say it's either Luke Skywalker or Tony Hawk. Leave your answers in the comment section below. And if you can like, share and subscribe, that'll be nice of you. We've got loads more other content, lots of crossover stuff, lots of wrestling stuff, not much Simpsons stuff, but we'll get on that. If you could do that, that'll be great. With all that out of the way, I'll see you next time. Peace!
Why would I want a picture of a pitiful pencil-neck geek?
Don't feel sorry for him.